first 30 games of the season. Because if it's not going their way for both teams, look for Daryl Morey to be aggressive in pursuing James Harden. Because if that John Wall fit, if the John Wall and James Harden don't fit, James Harden is really going to force his way out, and I see him going to the 76ers if it don't pan out the way he wants it.
I've heard Philly, and of course we heard some speculation about Brooklyn. Right now, James Harden, if you were advising him and he's your former teammate, would you tell him to go to Philly and play with those guys or go to Brooklyn and play with KD?
Well, short term, I would tell him to go to the Brooklyn Nets. Long term, I would tell them to go to the Philadelphia 76ers and pair up with Joel Embiid. He's never played with a big man like Joel. He's never played with a player like Joel Embiid. This guy's a generational talent. I think those two would match well together, and they could play together for the next 4 to 5 years at an extremely high level. Going to the Brooklyn Nets, that would be like a 2-year deal where it was just like, oh, I'm coming here to try to win a title. What's next? But if you go to Philly, you could play there long term.
You see on the screen, the Rockets don't plan to trade James Harden, but we all know what happens to plans. Every now and again, you wind up getting punched in the face.
Well, Greeny, listen, all I've been hearing this whole offseason is that it's not that much money. Guys are not about to get paid. But guess what? Down there in L.A., guess what's happening? All I see is the Brinks trucks going up and down the highway, Greeny. And look, they are taking care of their superstars, and rightfully so. You have a guy who people call the Wash King in LeBron James. Guess what? Jenny Buss said he's not washed to us, and we go show you. We go extend him to a well-deserved $85 million contract. And then we're going to lock in our 27-year-old generational stud in Anthony Davis. Our duo is not going anywhere. And we have strong belief that over the next 4 years at least, that these two guys could be the best duo in the league and deliver more championships, and rightfully so. Job well done by the Lakers organization, Rob Pelinka and Rich Paul by getting it done.
I'm not letting you off the hook. How many? Next 3 years. Right now, those two guys are locked in for the next 3. How many of the next 3 rings do you think the Lakers get?
I think they get about 2, maybe. I think they get about 2, Greeny. And look, right now, LeBron is feeling rejuvenated. He knows that he's playing alongside Anthony Davis, and he wants to take advantage of it. And look, watch and see in the next couple of years, LeBron is going to defer to Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis will be in the MVP conversation. So I see them winning at least 2 more championships.
Well, that's a really significant number, Kendrick Perkins, and you don't need me to tell you this, but just to remind everyone, LeBron has 4. 2 more would give him 6. What would 6 championships for LeBron James mean for his legacy?
Well, I know your partner in crime, Stephen A, is probably saying not a damn thing, but it would do everything for his legacy. It would shut up the old haters like Jalen Rose, my guy, who always going to keep Michael Jordan at the top, but it's going to put him right there in the conversation with Mike and prove those old haters wrong. So I'm rooting for old King James to go ahead and get his 6 titles.
All right, again.
Well, if I'm James Harden, I'm waking up today saying, get me the hell out of here. Get me out. I need to go either to Philly. I need to go to Brooklyn. I need to get out of here because this is not what I signed up for. And I don't know if this makes me happy to be here in Houston long term. If I wake up and I'm Bradley Beal on the East Coast in D.C., I'm saying, oh, I think we have a chance to be top 5 in the East right now. Getting Brody to come here to D.C., getting Davis Bertans to sign a 5-year, $80 million deal. This puts us almost in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. So, look, I now look at Houston and I say, John Wall, I hope he comes back and has an incredible year. Hasn't played since 2018, okay? He's injury prone coming off that injury. You have DeMarcus Cousins, injury prone coming off an injury. Now, that's an interesting team. If I'm Houston, if I'm Raphael Stone, how much longer can you hold on to James Harden without him publicly becoming a disgruntled employee? So if he's at a post presser every single day, when you know he's going to be asked this question over and over and over again, are you happy here? Eventually Harden's going to tell you how he feels. Do you lose trade value the longer you hold on to him? Or now are you starting to look at the Brooklyn situation and say, hey, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, some future first-round picks. Maybe that is enough for a guy like James Harden, because I feel like James Harden has given his heart and soul to Houston. James Harden deserves to have a shot at winning a world championship, and that will not occur in Houston. He has a better chance of doing that with Brooklyn or Philadelphia. Do the right thing for James Harden.
Do the right thing for James. Do the right thing for James. I look at it and say, you know what? This is kind of like for Westbrook going east and Wall going to Houston, they kind of just swapped contracts and players of that style to me. I mean, you get a healthy guy versus a guy that you really don't know a whole lot about unless they've had some private workouts of some sort on video where they've had an opportunity to see him bounce and run around where they can say, okay, I think we're getting the 2018 John Wall pre-injury, so we're okay with that. Boogie Cousins, on the other hand, we know what that, not only from an injury standpoint, but also from an in-shape standpoint, what that's going to look like. In terms of James Harden, and I've always said this, and I will continue to say it until I die, professional athletes, the moment that they tell organizations that they don't want to be there, the organization will try the best to move them. It just because you don't want to have a hostile situation inside of a locker room, especially with a young new head coach coming in to try to manage the situation. I don't care what he's done in his past previous stops with certain athletes and personalities, but to have a new head coach come in and you have a disgruntled player, I don't want to call it disgruntled, a player that's just not really feeling what's going on because he's watching potentially what the Brooklyn Nets could be doing in James Harden or potentially what Philadelphia could be doing. And he's sitting back there saying, I could be a part of that, but you're holding me hostage when I don't want to be here. I think Raphael Stone will get around to figuring out how to move James Harden. You got to go one piece at a time. It's too much to try to, just to digest when you have to deal with Westbrook, which was probably the easier deal to get done, and you got Harden, both of them on the same table, and you trying to navigate through that. That's a lot. So you want to get one off the table. Now we could turn our attentions to James Harden and potentially a Philadelphia deal or potentially a Brooklyn Nets deal. You revisit that now and see where it goes.
Let me tell you this. Right now with John Wall, because of the injury, he slipped and fell at his home. He had a ruptured Achilles. I thought Dustin Johnson was the only guy that could use that as an excuse if you're a golf fan out there. But 3 years, $132 million. You don't exactly know what you're getting. You know Russ obviously is a huge deal that's worth more than $130 million left on his deal as well. But we know what we've gotten from Russell Westbrook. At this point, 3 years, $132. We don't know what we're going to get from Wall. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just know somebody else who slipped and fell and then was out of work for 2 days.
You almost got cussed out, man.
What? He just... You slipped and fell at the house. You rolled your ankle. You're out for 2 days. That's all I'm saying.
DJ slipped and fell at Augusta. Key slipped and fell in Brooklyn. And John Wall did so in and around the district.
Because you're trying to sell a narrative to the people that's listening and looking as if I'm clumsy and non-athletic.
No, you're extremely athletic.
And I'm not going to have you doing that.
Your dog came underneath you and you didn't see him early in the morning. I'm just saying it happens. It's feasible. That's all.
No doubt. We're always have fun. So just quickly to go back, you don't know what you're going to get from Wall, as I mentioned, the 700 days, 3 years, 132. But let me ask you it from this particular standpoint, Jay, from an NBA perspective. The Wizards, this wasn't really talked about much because they haven't been talked about much. They were in the bubble. They played 8 games. They lost 7 of the 8 games. It basically took them to fifth wall was the Eastern Conference semifinals. I'm not pinning that on Wall. I'm just saying that this is a team that is there's a shot of adrenaline that needs to come into this team's arm. And
they just got it.
With somebody as exciting as Westbrook, playing at 100 miles an hour like Westbrook, the entertainment factor. I just think there's something here for Washington, even though everybody's talking about what it means for Houston, the residual for Harden. For Washington, they need to be relevant, and this gives them some relevancy.
And first off, to all the haters out there, Key, everybody with all these different narratives, you were talking about narratives before. Well, Brody isn't a guy that helps the culture of your team. That's wrong. Brody does help the culture of your team. Let's talk about what happened to him. He started off slow this year, okay? Then he came on hot. Then he got COVID, missed some time in the bubble, came into the bubble, did decently to come